Let us begin with the truth. People are not moved by reason, but by fear, desire, and the illusion of control. If you seek to bend the will of the masses to your advantage, you must first understand this immutable fact. Men will forget kindness, but never insult. They will cheer a bold lie if it flatters their hope, and scorn the truth if it brings discomfort. Use this. In times of uncertainty, promise certainty. When the world trembles with crisis, offer strength, not solutions. The common man does not wish to think. He wishes to follow. Give him an enemy, and you give him purpose. Convince him he is under threat, by outsiders, by famine, by unseen forces, and then present yourself as the shield. Manipulation is not cruelty. It is strategy. Inspire loyalty through fear of loss, not the promise of gain. Stir the crowd with symbols and stories, not statistics. Appear pious even if you are ruthless. Speak of virtue, but never let it bind your hand. The prince who hesitates loses his throne. Power is not taken. It is offered by those who crave protection more than freedom. And now I urge you, if you value wisdom, subscribe to this channel. For here you will learn what rulers fear to speak, and what the weak are too blind to see. Stay, listen, and prepare. For those who are prepared rule those who are not. Listen closely, for I am about to share with you the most profound secret of power, one that rulers throughout history have guarded jealously. The masses do not want truth. They crave comfort. They hunger for beautiful lies that soothe their fears and validate their delusions. I have watched princes rise and fall, republics crumble into dust. And in every instance, the same pattern emerges. Those who speak truth are cast out, while those who craft pleasing illusions are crowned as saviors. This is not a tragedy to lament. It is a weakness to exploit. Think of how the common man approaches his daily life. Does he seek out uncomfortable realities? Does he challenge his cherished beliefs? No. He surrounds himself with those who confirm what he already believes. He reads what makes him feel righteous. He listens to those who tell him his failures are not his fault. The truly powerful understand this fundamental flaw in human nature. They know that truth is like bitter medicine. It must be wrapped in sweet deception to be swallowed. When you grasp this principle, you will hold the key to countless hearts and minds. Consider how every successful movement begins, not with facts, but with stories, not with data, but with dreams. The masses don't rally behind spreadsheets. They march behind symbols. They don't memorize statistics. They chant slogans. This is not their weakness. It is their nature. To rule, you must first accept this reality. Logic is a tool of the few, while emotion is the language of the many. When you speak truth plainly, you will find yourself preaching to empty squares. But when you clothe it in myth, when you weave it into narrative, when you transform cold facts into warm dreams, then the crowds will come. Then they will listen. Then they will follow. I have seen empires built on nothing more substantial than well-crafted lies. I have watched kingdoms fall because their rulers foolishly believed that truth alone would sustain their power. The wise prince understands, truth is not a gift to be shared, but a weapon to be wielded. Use it sparingly, strategically, always cloaked in the comfortable robes of illusion. Remember this always. People will fight harder to preserve their comforting delusions than they ever will for truth. They will defend their beautiful lies with a passion that truth rarely inspires. This is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a tool to be mastered. You who seek power, begin here. Begin with this understanding. The masses do not want truth. They want their biases confirmed, their prejudices justified, their fears soothed, and their hopes inflated. Give them this, and they will give you everything in return. This is the first truth of power. People do not want the truth. Accept this, embrace this, and the path to influence will open before you like a royal road. Look around you. See how this principle manifests in every sphere of modern influence. Watch how successful leaders never present raw facts, but rather craft compelling narratives. Observe how media empires thrive not by reporting reality, but by selling carefully constructed versions of it. Notice how the most powerful companies don't sell products. They sell dreams, identities, belonging. The digital age has not changed this fundamental truth. It has amplified it. Social media, that great arena of modern influence, is not a marketplace of ideas. It is a battlefield of narratives. Those who dominate these platforms understand that truth is irrelevant. Engagement is everything. And what engages the masses? Not careful analysis, but emotional resonance. Not nuanced discussion, but dramatic confrontation. Not truth, but tribalism. This knowledge is your foundation. Everything we discuss from this point forward builds upon this understanding. The methods I will teach you, the strategies of influence, the tactics of control that all rest upon this immutable fact of human nature. The masses do not want truth. They want direction. They want certainty. They want someone to transform their complex, chaotic world into simple, digestible stories. You will learn to be that someone. You will master the art of crafting these stories, of weaving these illusions, of building these compelling narratives that capture minds and hearts. But first, you must embrace this fundamental truth without hesitation or moral squeamishness. This is not about right or wrong. It is about power. And power flows to those who understand human nature, not to those who wish it were different. Remember, the truth serves power. Power does not serve truth. Begin your journey with this understanding, and you will never be powerless again. There exists no force more powerful for unifying the masses than a common enemy. This is a truth that has echoed through centuries, from ancient Rome to modern nations. When people share a common threat, their differences dissolve, their doubts vanish, and their loyalty becomes absolute. Your task is to master the art of creating and sustaining such enemies. Understand this: the enemy need not be real. It need only be believable. The threat need not be immediate. It need only be conceivable. The danger need not be proven. It need only be feared. This is the essence of manufacturing an enemy for your advantage. The most effective enemies are those that cannot easily defend themselves or disprove your accusations. Abstract concepts serve well: corruption, moral decay, social change. Distant groups work better than near ones. They cannot easily counter your narrative. Complicated systems are perfect targets. Few understand them well enough to challenge your claims. But mere existence is not enough. You must breathe life into this enemy, give it form, give it intention, most crucially, give it power, but not too much power. Your enemy must be strong enough to pose a credible threat, yet weak enough that victory under your leadership seems possible. This is the sweet spot of manufactured fear. Watch how I shape this shadow. First, speak of the enemy in terms of corruption rather than strength. They are insidious, not powerful. They are cunning, not competent. They operate in shadows, not openly. This makes them seem both dangerous and defeatable. It justifies both fear and action. Next, link this enemy to your audience's existing fears and frustrations. If they fear economic hardship, your enemy becomes the force behind their financial struggles. If they fear social change, your enemy becomes the architect of moral decay. If they fear loss of status, your enemy becomes the source of their declining influence. Here's a crucial principle. Never let your enemy remain abstract for long. Give examples, but keep them vague enough to avoid scrutiny. Speak of unnamed sources, hidden documents, secret meetings. The mind fills in these shadowy spaces with its own fears, creating an enemy far more terrifying than any you could explicitly describe. Your narrative must be consistent, yet flexible. The enemy must be behind every setback, every failure, every disappointment. But their methods must seem to constantly shift, explaining why they are so hard to defeat. This justifies both your previous failures and your continued authority. The digital age has made this art both easier and more complex. Information spreads faster, but so does doubt. The solution: create layers of enemies. Behind the visible opponents, hint at hidden forces. Behind the hidden forces, suggest deeper conspiracies. Let each layer reinforce the others, creating a web of threats that seems to explain everything. When crafting your enemy, remember this: people fear what they don't understand, but they hate what they almost understand. Position your enemy as comprehensible enough to be hated, but complex enough to be feared. Make their motives clear, but their methods mysterious. The true power of a manufactured enemy lies not in its ability to frighten, but in its ability to unite. When people share a common fear, they will accept a common leader. When they face a common threat, they will embrace a common purpose. When they fight a common enemy, they will forget they ever had reasons to fight each other. Most importantly, your enemy must never be completely defeated. Victory must always seem possible, yet never quite achieved. The moment your enemy disappears, your people will begin to look for a new one, and they might choose you. Keep the threat eternal, but the progress visible. Let them feel they are winning, but never let them win. This is the art of the manufactured enemy: not to create a monster that devours all, but to create a shadow that darkens every corner except the patch of ground where you stand. Master this, and you will never lack for loyal followers. For in their minds, you will always be the light that holds the darkness at bay. Here we arrive at a fundamental truth of human nature. When forced to choose between freedom and security, the masses will invariably choose security. This is not a weakness to condemn, but a powerful lever of control for those wise enough to grasp it. Let me show you how to master this essential principle of manipulation. Freedom is a burden. It demands responsibility, requires decisions, forces accountability. Most importantly, it carries the weight of uncertainty. And uncertainty, my attentive student, is what the human mind fears above all else. This is your opportunity. This is your point of entry into the deepest chambers of human psychology. The art lies in creating the perfect balance of uncertainty and promise. First, you must allow, or better yet, orchestrate enough chaos to make the masses feel vulnerable. Let them taste the bitter fruit of unlimited freedom. Let them experience the anxiety of too many choices, too many possibilities, too many potential threats. But never let this chaos become complete. You must remain the beacon of order in this storm. Your authority should appear as the natural antidote to uncertainty. Your control should feel like a comfort, not a constraint. Your restrictions should be welcomed as protection, not resented as imprisonment. Watch how the most skilled practitioners of this art operate in the modern world. Corporate leaders offer the security of belonging to a structured hierarchy. Political figures promise safety through surveillance and control. Media empires provide the comfort of simple narratives in a complex world. All understand that humans will trade their autonomy for the illusion of certainty. The digital age has made this technique even more powerful. People willingly surrender their privacy for convenience, their independence for connectivity, their freedom of thought for the comfort of filtered information. They do not see these as sacrifices. They see them as upgrades to their lives. This is the sublime beauty of offering security in place of freedom. The cage becomes a sanctuary. Your language must reflect this transformation. Never speak of restrictions. Speak of protection. Never mention control. Talk about safety. Never acknowledge surveillance. Emphasize security. The masses must feel that every freedom they surrender is a shield they gain. Every choice you remove should feel like a burden you lift from their shoulders. Consider how to apply this in practical terms. When you wish to monitor, frame it as caring. When you need to restrict, present it as guidance. When you must control, package it as support. The masses will not only accept these limitations, they will defend them. They will fight to maintain the very systems that constrain them, because you have made constraint feel like protection. But here is the subtle art. Within this art, you must leave them the illusion of freedom. Small choices, inconsequential decisions, minor autonomy in trivial matters, these are the pressure valves that prevent rebellion. Let them choose their entertainment, their clothes, their daily routines. These small freedoms make the larger chains feel lighter. The true master of this principle understands that security is not just physical safety. It is psychological comfort. It is the relief of having someone else make the difficult decisions. It is the comfort of having someone else bear the burden of responsibility. It is the luxury of certainty in an uncertain world. Your role is to become the provider of this certainty. Position yourself as the strong hand that brings order to chaos, the wise mind that simplifies complexity, the protective force that stands between your followers and the dangerous unknown. Do this correctly, and they will not see you as their jailer, but as their guardian. This is the paradox you must master. The more security you provide, the more freedom they will surrender. The more choices you remove, the more grateful they will become. The more you restrict their world, the safer they will feel within its narrowing walls. Remember, they do not want the burden of freedom. They want the comfort of certainty. Give them this, and they will give you everything in return. The greatest power lies not in being virtuous, but in being perceived as virtuous. This is a truth that saints and sinners alike have understood throughout history. The masses crave moral leadership, yet they rarely recognize true morality when they see it. This creates your opportunity to master the art of moral appearance while maintaining absolute strategic freedom. Consider the most successful manipulators in history. They did not achieve their aims through naked aggression or obvious deception. They built monuments to virtue. They spoke endlessly of justice. They wrapped every action, no matter how calculating, in the gleaming robes of moral purpose. This is your model. This is your path to power. The first principle of this art is to understand that moral reputation is a resource to be carefully cultivated and strategically spent. Build it through small, visible acts of virtue. Protect it through careful image management. Spend it wisely when necessary to achieve larger aims. Your moral capital should be treated like a precious currency, accumulated slowly, preserved, carefully, used sparingly. Begin with appearance. Your public presence must radiate virtue. Speak often of ethics, of justice, of the greater good. Champion popular causes that cost you nothing. Support virtuous initiatives that align with your goals. Let every public action be a performance of morality, carefully choreographed for maximum visibility and impact. But mere appearance is not enough. You must build a narrative of virtue so compelling that it becomes your shield against criticism. Establish yourself as the voice of moral authority in your sphere. Create a track record of public virtue that seems unimpeachable. This reputation will become your armor, deflecting accusations and dissolving doubts before they can take root. Watch how modern leaders play this game. CEOs speak of corporate responsibility while maximizing profit. Politicians invoke the public good while serving private interests. Religious figures preach sacrifice while living in luxury. All understand that moral appearance is not about being good, it is about being perceived as good while maintaining freedom of action. Learn to use the language of virtue as a tool of power. Speak of responsibility when you wish to control. Invoke justice when you need to punish. Talk of sacrifice when you must take. The masses will not only accept your actions, they will applaud them. They will see your strategic moves as moral imperatives, your calculated decisions as ethical. Leadership. This is where the true art begins. Every strategic action must be framed in moral terms. Are you eliminating rivals? You are protecting the community from harmful influences. Are you consolidating power? You are accepting the burden of leadership for the greater good. Are you exploiting opportunities? You are ensuring resources are properly managed for everyone's benefit. But remember, your virtue must seem effortless, natural, unquestionable. Never appear to be trying to prove your morality. Never defend your ethical standing. Act as if your virtue is so self-evident that questioning it would be absurd. This perceived moral certainty becomes a form of power in itself. The digital age has created new challenges and opportunities in this art. Your moral performance must now be consistent across multiple platforms. Yet each platform requires its own particular expression of virtue. Master this complex dance. Be righteously angry on Twitter, inspirationally ethical on LinkedIn, humanly vulnerable on Instagram, deeply principled on traditional media. Create layers of moral accountability that serve as your armor. Join ethical boards. Align yourself with respected moral figures. Support virtuous causes. Each layer reinforces your moral reputation while providing witnesses to your apparent goodness. These relationships become your character witnesses, your moral credentials, your public proof of virtue. Yet beneath this gleaming surface, maintain absolute strategic freedom. Your moral reputation should expand your options, not limit them. The appearance of virtue should be your servant, not your master. When you must act against the moral expectations you have created, do so through proxies, through complex structures, through distant mechanisms that cannot be easily traced back to you. The supreme achievement in this art is to become so thoroughly identified with virtue that your actions define morality rather than being defined by it. When you reach this level, even your most calculated moves will be seen as moral leadership. Your strategic decisions will be interpreted as ethical wisdom. Your self-interest will be understood as serving the greater good. This is the true power of moral appearance, not to make you good, but to make your actions unquestionable, not to limit your choices, but to expand them, not to bind you to virtue, but to free you from its constraints while enjoying its protections. Remember, the appearance of morality is more powerful than morality itself. Master this truth, and you will have both the moral authority the masses crave and the strategic freedom you require to rule them. Reality is not what happens. Reality is what people believe happens. This is the cornerstone of narrative control, the most powerful tool in the modern manipulator's arsenal. Master this art, and you will shape not just what people think, but how they think. You will control not just their opinions, but their very perception of reality. The first principle of narrative control is this: truth is not objective. It is consensual. What the masses believe becomes their truth, regardless of facts. Your task is not to fight reality, but to create it. Not to argue with truth, but to shape it. Not to respond to narratives, but to craft them. Consider how information flows in the modern world, not in straight lines, but in cycles. Not through single sources, but through networks. Not by force, but by repetition. This is your battlefield. Every platform, every medium, every channel must echo your chosen narrative until it becomes indistinguishable from reality itself. But crude propaganda is for amateurs. The art lies in making your narrative feel like discovery. Plant seeds of your story across different sources. Let one outlet raise questions that another answers. Create patterns that seem to emerge naturally. The masses must feel they are connecting dots, not being fed conclusions. Watch how skilled practitioners layer their narratives. A whisper on social media becomes a question in print, becomes a debate on television, becomes a truth that everybody knows. Each layer reinforces the others, creating a web of manufactured reality so dense that contrary facts cannot penetrate it. Your narrative must be simple enough to spread, but complex enough to defend. Simple phrases, repeated endlessly, become the anchors, protecting our values, defending our way of life, fighting for truth. But behind these simple phrases, build complexity, layers of supporting details, seemingly unrelated facts that all point to your conclusion. Learn to use the power of framing. The same event, framed differently, becomes a different reality. A protest becomes either a riot or a peaceful demonstration. An economic change becomes either an opportunity or a crisis. A social movement becomes either progress or decay. The facts matter less than the frame around them. Master the art of selective emphasis. What you highlight becomes reality. What you ignore ceases to exist in the public mind. This is not about lying. It is about choosing which truths to amplify. 1,000 facts exist about any situation. Your power lies in deciding which ones shape the narrative. The digital age has made this both easier and more complex. Information spreads faster, but so does contradiction. The solution? Control the context, not just the content. Create an ecosystem of information where every source seems to independently confirm your narrative, where every platform amplifies your chosen reality. Timing is crucial. Release information in patterns that serve your purpose. Hold damaging facts until you can embed them in a larger, more favorable narrative. Accelerate positive news when you need to drown out criticism. Delay revelations until they can be framed as old news already resolved. Learn to use crisis to your advantage. In chaos, people crave certainty. Be the first to explain what things mean. Your interpretation, offered in the moment of confusion, will become the lens through which all subsequent information is viewed. The narrative you establish in crisis becomes nearly impossible to dislodge. But never appear to be pushing too hard. Let others carry your message. Plant your narratives in the minds of influencers, experts, respected voices. Let them believe they discovered these truths themselves. Their conviction will be genuine, their advocacy authentic. They become unwitting agents of your reality. The strongest narratives are those that align with what people want to believe. Find the hopes, fears, and biases of your audience. Shape your story to confirm them. People will fight to defend a narrative that makes them feel righteous, that justifies their preferences, that validates their worldview. Remember, contradiction is not your enemy. Confusion is your friend. When facts challenge your narrative, flood the space with alternative explanations. Create multiple versions of events. Sow doubt about all narratives except your own. In confusion, people will cling to the simplest explanation, the one you have carefully prepared. This is the true power of narrative control. Not to tell people what to think, but to give them the tools with which to think. Not to force a story, but to create the context in which your story becomes inevitable. Not to fight alternative narratives, but to make them unthinkable. Master this art, and reality itself becomes your instrument. For in the modern world, the narrative is not just the description of reality, it is reality itself. Understand this essential truth. A crowd does not think, it feels. A mass does not reason, it reacts. This is not a flaw in human nature. It is the key to controlling it. The individual mind may demand logic, but the mass mind craves emotion. Master this principle, and you will master the art of mass manipulation. When humans gather in numbers, their individual intelligence diminishes. Their primitive instincts strengthen. Their need for leadership intensifies. This is not theory. This is observable fact. Watch how crowds behave in moments of crisis or celebration. See how rapidly rational thought gives way to emotional contagion. The mass mind operates on a simple principle. Emotion spreads faster than thought. Fear moves quicker than facts. Anger travels further than analysis. In a crowd, the lowest common denominator of human nature becomes the highest power. This is your leverage point. This is your fulcrum of control. Consider how this manifests. In the digital age, social media is not a platform for discussion. It is an amplifier of emotion. Online crowds do not gather to think. They gather to feel, to react, to belong. They do not seek truth. They seek confirmation. They do not want dialogue. They want dominance. But crude appeal to emotion is for amateurs. The art lies in orchestrating emotional crescendos and diminuendos. Like a conductor of a grand orchestra, you must learn to raise and lower emotional tension at will, to build and release pressure in careful measures, to create emotional rhythms that serve your purpose. Watch how skilled manipulators play this instrument. They begin with low, steady notes of discontent. They gradually increase the tempo of outrage. They build to crescendos of righteous anger. Then, at precisely the right moment, they offer the resolution, their solution, their leadership, their control. The mass mind craves simplicity. It rejects nuance. It fears complexity. This is not a weakness to remedy. It is a tool to employ. Your messages must be simple, your enemies clear, your solutions straightforward. The crowd does not want to understand, it wants to believe. Learn to use symbols rather than arguments, images rather than explanations, slogans rather than statements. The mass mind thinks in pictures, responds to icons, rallies to simple calls. A flag will move them more than a treatise. A chant will unite them more than a lecture. But remember, the crowd must never feel manipulated. They must believe they are acting of their own accord. Their anger must feel justified, their fears rational, their actions necessary. Your hand must remain invisible while their emotions run their natural course. Timing is everything. The mass mind is most malleable in moments of uncertainty. When the crowd feels lost, they look for direction. When they feel threatened, they seek protection. When they feel angry, they want targets. Your role is to be ready with answers before they even know their questions. Master the art of emotional focusing. A crowd's anger is useless unless directed. Their fear is wasted unless channeled. Their passion is powerless unless guided. Like a lens concentrating sunlight, you must focus their raw emotions into a burning point of purpose. The digital world has not changed these principles. It has amplified them. Social media, mass communication, viral content, these are not new phenomena. They are ancient crowd dynamics, accelerated and intensified. The tools are new, but the mass mind remains unchanged. Learn to recognize the signs of emotional contagion, how hashtags spread like viruses, how outrage multiplies through shares and likes, how fear cascades through networks. These are not random events. They are predictable patterns you can trigger and direct. But never forget, the mass mind is powerful but unstable. Like fire, it can warm or burn. Like water, it can sustain or drown. Your task is not to create chaos. It is to channel existing emotional energy, not to start fires, but to control their spread and direction. This is the true art of mass manipulation, not to force the crowd to move, but to make movement inevitable. Not to push them toward your goals, but to make your goals seem like their destiny. Not to command their emotions, but to make their emotions serve your commands. Master this understanding, and the mass mind becomes your instrument. For in the end, the crowd does not follow the one who shouts loudest. It follows the one who best conducts its silent song. Of all human weaknesses, none is more powerful or more exploitable than the desperate need to belong. This primal hunger for acceptance, for inclusion, for identity. This is the lever that moves mountains. This is the key that unlocks absolute. Loyalty. This is the chain that binds more strongly than any physical restraint. Understand this fundamental truth. Humans will sacrifice almost anything to feel part of something larger than themselves. They will abandon their principles, deny obvious facts, even harm their own interests, all to maintain their place within a group. This is not a flaw to be corrected. This is a tool to be mastered. Your first task is to create the illusion of exclusivity. Your group, your movement, your cause must appear both desirable and slightly out of reach. The masses must feel they need to earn their place, prove their worth, demonstrate their loyalty. This creates both value and commitment. What is freely given is rarely valued. Watch how skilled practitioners craft this perception. Elite organizations that hint at secret knowledge, exclusive communities that promise special insight, movements that offer a unique identity. All understand that the appearance of exclusivity creates real desire. The harder something seems to join, the more people wish to be part of it. But mere exclusivity is not enough. You must create layers of belonging, circles within circles. Each inner level should promise greater knowledge, deeper understanding, closer connection to power. This serves two purposes. It keeps those on the outside striving to get in, and it keeps those on the inside striving to go deeper. The digitally age has given us new tools for this ancient art. Online communities, private groups, exclusive content, these are your modern temples of belonging. Use them wisely. Make your outer layers visible but restricted. Let outsiders see enough to desire entry, but not enough to feel satisfied with mere observation. Learn to use the power of shared language. Special terms that only insiders understand. Phrases that identify true believers. References that separate the initiated from the ignorant. This private language becomes both a badge of belonging and a barrier to outsiders. It makes members feel special while isolating them from external influence. Identity is your strongest weapon. Give your followers a name, a label, a category that sets them apart. Make this identity seem superior to outsiders, but make it appear humble in its superiority. They should feel chosen, special, enlightened, but they should express this feeling through false modesty and affected reluctance. Create rituals of belonging, small acts that separate insiders from outsiders, trivial choices that take on deep significance, meaningless gestures that become loaded with meaning. These shared behaviors create bonds stronger than logic, deeper than reason. They become the invisible threads that weave your followers into a unified whole. But remember, the desire to belong must be balanced with the fear of exclusion. Your followers must feel constantly that their place could be lost, their status revoked, their belonging withdrawn. This subtle anxiety keeps them vigilant, compliant, eager to prove their loyalty through ever greater acts of commitment. Master the art of creating hierarchies within your group. Ranks, levels, degrees of access. These give your followers something to strive for while keeping them under control. Each level should require greater sacrifice, greater dedication, greater submission to your authority. The higher they climb, the more they have invested, the less likely they are to ever leave. Watch how this plays out in modern contexts. Social media influencers with their inner circles, political movements with their levels of activism, corporate cultures with their layers of inclusion, all understand that humans will work harder to maintain status than they ever did to achieve it. Your group must seem to offer what society appears to lack: purpose, meaning, connection. But more than that, it must seem to offer truth, hidden truth, deep truth, truth that only the special few can access or understand. This perceived access to special knowledge becomes another chain of belonging. The ultimate achievement is to make your group not just an organization, but an identity, not just a choice, but a destiny, not just a membership, but a mission. When you achieve this, your followers will defend their belonging with the same ferocity with which they defend their own self-image. This is the true power of exploiting the need to belong. Not just to gather followers, but to remake them. Not just to build a group, but to create a living organism of absolute loyalty. Not just to lead, but to become the very source of your followers' identity. For when belonging becomes identity, there is no need for external control. Your followers become their own jailers, their own monitors, their own enforcers of loyalty. They will defend their cage because they can no longer imagine life outside it. In a world drowning in doubt, certainty is power. Those who speak in absolutes command attention. Those who eliminate ambiguity attract followers. Those who offer clarity amid chaos become leaders. Master this art, and you will never lack for loyal disciples. Understand this: the masses do not want nuance. They do not seek complexity. They flee from ambiguity as from a plague. In times of uncertainty, they flock to those who speak with unwavering conviction. Your role is to become their beacon of absolute truth in a sea of confusion. The first principle is this: never qualify your statements, never hedge your claims, never admit to doubt. The words perhaps, maybe, possibly must be banished from your vocabulary when speaking to the masses. Your every pronouncement must carry the weight of irrefutable truth, even when, especially when, you are operating on instinct alone. Watch how master manipulators employ this technique. They do not suggest, they proclaim. They do not propose, they declare. They do not ask, they tell. Their language contains no hint of uncertainty, no trace of self-doubt, no possibility of error. This is not about being right. It is about being believed. Your certainty must be total, your conviction absolute. When others hesitate, you must be decisive. When experts equivocate, you must speak with clarity. When facts are unclear, you must provide clarity through sheer force of will. The masses will follow conviction over truth every time, but mere boldness of statement is not enough. You must craft your absolutes to be both unquestionable and unverifiable. Speak of inevitable victories, unavoidable destinies, undeniable truths. Make predictions that cannot be immediately proven wrong. Make claims that appeal to emotion rather than evidence. Learn to use the power of declarative statements. This is the way. There is no alternative. The time has come. These phrases: brook no argument, allow no debate, permit no uncertainty. They do not invite discussion. They end it. They do not seek agreement. They assume it. Your certainty must become contagious. When you speak of the future, speak as if it is already written. When you describe your vision, present it as inevitable. When you make promises, deliver them as if they are already fulfilled. The masses will begin to see through your eyes, to share your certainty, to believe in your infallibility. Master the art of turning questions into declarations. Never ask what should be done. Tell what must be done. Never wonder about possibilities. Pronounce necessities. Never explore options. Declare the only path forward. Your role is not to facilitate discussion, but to end it with absolute clarity. The digital age requires even greater certainty. In a world of infinite information, endless debate, and constant questioning, your unwavering voice must cut through the noise like a knife. Your absolutes must provide an anchor in the chaos of competing narratives. When others offer statistics, you must offer certainty. When they present studies, you must present truth. When they cite experts, you must become the expert. Your authority comes not from knowledge, but from the absolute conviction with which you speak. But remember, your certainty must seem natural, not forced. It must appear to come from deep wisdom rather than mere stubbornness. You are not arguing, you are revealing. You are not persuading, you are pronouncing. You are not fighting for your vision, you are simply stating what is and must be. This is how you must carry yourself. As one who sees clearly what others barely glimpse, as one who knows deeply what others only guess at, as one who understands completely what others struggle to grasp. Your certainty must seem like a gift you are sharing, not a position you are defending. For in the end, the masses do not follow those who ask for trust, they follow those who assume it. They do not believe those who argue for truth, they believe those who embody it. They do not rally to those who seek leadership, they rally to those who emanate authority through unwavering certainty. This is your path to power. Speak as if your words are carved in stone. Act as if your vision is preordained. Lead as if your authority is absolute. For in a world of uncertainty, nothing is more seductive than the promise of absolute truth. Never waste the opportunity presented by a good crisis. This is the supreme rule of power acquisition. In times of stability, change is difficult. In times of crisis, change is inevitable. Your task is not to wait for these moments of chaos. It is to recognize them, amplify them, and harness them for your advantage. Understand this fundamental truth. During crisis, the normal rules cease to apply. What was impossible becomes necessary. What was unthinkable becomes reasonable. What was forbidden becomes essential. This suspension of ordinary limits is your window of opportunity, your moment to reshape reality according to your vision. The first principle of crisis exploitation is this: never let raw chaos reign. Crisis without direction is merely disaster. Crisis with direction becomes transformation. Your role is to become the force that provides this direction, the voice that makes sense of the senseless, the hand that appears to restore order while actually restructuring power. Watch how master practitioners operate during upheaval. They never speak of taking advantage. They speak of taking responsibility. They never appear opportunistic. They appear necessary. They don't exploit fear. They channel it. They don't seize power. They accept the burden of authority that circumstances thrust upon them. Learn to recognize the types of crisis that serve power best: economic uncertainty that breeds financial fear, social upheaval that threatens established order, natural disasters that demonstrate the fragility of normal systems, technological disruptions that shake conventional wisdom. Each type offers unique opportunities for those bold enough to grasp them, but mere recognition is not enough. You must become skilled at crisis amplification. Small problems must be presented as harbingers of greater disaster. Local issues must be framed as symptoms of systemic failure. Individual incidents must be portrayed as signs of imminent collapse. The art lies not in creating crisis from nothing, but in recognizing and amplifying the crisis potential in everything. Master the language of crisis opportunity. This breakdown of the old system creates the chance to build something better. From this chaos, we can forge a new order. This crisis demands bold action and new thinking. These phrases transform your opportunism into visionary leadership, your ambition into public service. Your role in crisis must appear reluctant, yet resolute. You must seem to accept power not because you wish it, but because circumstances demand it. Every grab for control must be framed as an acceptance of responsibility. Every exploitation of opportunity must appear as a response to necessity. The digital age has created new forms of crisis to exploit. Information overload that breeds confusion. Virtual panics that spark real fear. Online movements that threaten established power. These modern crises follow ancient patterns but move at unprecedented speed. Learn to ride these waves of digital disruption. Remember this crucial principle: the bigger the crisis, the bigger the opportunity. Major disruptions don't just create chances for minor adjustments, they open the door for complete restructuring. When systems are shaken to their core, bold actors can reshape them entirely. Don't think in terms of small gains. Think in terms of total transformation. Yet timing is everything. Move too soon and you appear opportunistic. Move too late and others will have seized the advantage. The perfect moment comes when fear is highest, but chaos has not yet turned to despair. When people are desperate for solutions but haven't yet adapted to the new normal. This is your window of maximum opportunity. Study how crisis changes mass. Psychology: how fear makes the impossible acceptable. How uncertainty makes the extreme seem reasonable. How desperation makes the radical appear necessary. These shifts in what people will accept are your leverage points for change. Your most powerful tool in crisis is the promise of certainty. When everything is in chaos, people will surrender freedom for security, tradition for safety, principles for stability. Your role is to appear as the source of this certainty, the provider of this stability, the guarantor of this security. But remember, you must never appear to be profiting from disaster. Your gains must seem incidental to your service. Your power must appear to be a burden you bear rather than a prize you seized. Your leadership must seem like a response to circumstance rather than the fulfillment of ambition. Master the art of crisis narratives, how to frame disruption as opportunity, how to present self-interest as public service, how to transform opportunism into leadership. Your story must make your rise to power seem not just inevitable, but necessary, not just beneficial to you, but essential for all. This is the ultimate truth about crisis and power. The masses fear chaos more than they fear control. They fear uncertainty more than they fear authority. They fear disorder more than they fear dictatorship. Understand this. And every crisis becomes your opportunity to establish deeper control, to implement broader changes, to achieve greater power. For in the end, crisis does not create opportunities, it reveals them. It does not grant power, it simply shows who is prepared to seize it. Be that person. Be ready. For when crisis comes, those who are prepared to act while others hesitate will write the future. Unity is the enemy of control. A united population thinks, questions, and resists. But a divided population, distracted by internal conflicts, becomes yours to dominate. This is not merely a tactic, it is the foundation of lasting power. Master this trinity of control, divide, distract, dominate. First, understand the art of division. People naturally separate themselves into groups by class, belief, identity, or ambition. Your task is not to create these divisions, but to deepen them, to transform natural differences into unbridgeable chasms, to make cooperation between groups seem not just difficult, but impossible. Watch how skilled practitioners implement this strategy. They don't create conflicts, they inflame existing ones. They don't invent grievances, they amplify them. They don't force divisions, they make unity appear naive. The art lies not in splitting people apart, but in keeping them from coming together. Each group must be convinced that other groups threaten their interests, their values, their very way of life. But, and this is crucial, this threat must always seem to come from their fellow citizens, never from you. You must appear to be the voice of reason amid unreason, the force of stability amid chaos. Modern media has made this art even more potent. Social networks don't just connect, they segregate. News doesn't just inform, it divides. Entertainment doesn't just amuse, it separates. Use these tools. Let algorithms create echo chambers. Let targeted content deepen divisions. Let viral outrage prevent dialogue. Once divided, the masses must be distracted. This is the second phase of control. A population focused on real issues might unite despite their differences. But a population distracted by spectacle, scandal, and symbolic conflicts will remain perpetually divided and easily dominated. Master the art of meaningful distraction. Simple entertainment is not enough. You need controversies that feel important but change nothing. Debates that raise blood pressure but never raise consciousness. Conflicts that consume energy but never threaten power. Keep them angry, but about the wrong things. Watch how this works in practice. While real power moves quietly, let the masses argue about symbols. While wealth transfers invisibly, let them fight about statues. While rights erode slowly, let them rage about rumors. The best distractions feel crucial, but change nothing of substance. The digital age has perfected the art of distraction, endless feeds of outrage, continuous cycles of controversy, constant streams of conflict, each new scandal erasing the memory of the last. Each fresh outrage making yesterday's seem trivial, each breaking crisis preventing reflection on deeper issues. But mere chaos is not enough. You must direct these distractions. Like a conductor leading an orchestra of anger, you must ensure each group focuses its rage on other groups, never on the true sources of their discontent. Let them exhaust themselves fighting shadows while you operate in the light. This brings us to the final phase, domination. A divided, distracted population cannot resist effectively. They are too busy fighting each other to fight you, too consumed by surface conflicts to see deeper control, too exhausted by constant outrage to summon energy for real resistance. Now your real work can proceed quietly. While they argue, you act. While they fight symbolic battles, you win substantive ones. While they exhaust themselves over distractions, you consolidate your power without opposition. This is the true art of domination, making your control invisible beneath the chaos you conduct. Learn to use the language of unity while promoting division. We must come together, but on your terms. We must find common ground, but where you have prepared it. We must end division, but only by submitting to your authority. Make peace seem possible only through submission to your power. Remember, the goal is not complete chaos, it is controlled chaos, not total war, but contained conflict, not absolute division, but managed separation. You must maintain just enough stability for society to function, but not enough for it to unite. This is the balance that enables lasting domination. For when the masses are divided, they cannot unite against you. When they are distracted, they cannot focus on you. When they are dominated, they cannot resist you. This is the ultimate formula for control. Keep them divided enough to prevent unity, distracted enough to prevent understanding, and dominated enough to prevent resistance. Master this trinity of power: divide, distract, dominate, and you will never need to fear the masses again, for they will be too busy fighting each other to ever challenge your rule. Power maintains itself through a delicate balance of reward and punishment. The loyal must be rewarded visibly, while dissenters must be crushed quietly. This is not mere vindictiveness. It is the mathematics of control. For every act of loyalty rewarded creates 10 new loyalists, while every act of dissent crushed prevents 100 new dissenters. Understand this first principle. Loyalty must be profitable, but never completely secure. Your followers must see clear benefits from their devotion, but they must never feel so secure that they take these benefits for granted. The loyal servant who becomes complacent is but one step from becoming a threat. Watch how master practitioners implement this strategy. They create layers of reward, each requiring greater displays of loyalty to attain, small favors for small services, greater rewards for greater dedication, the highest prizes reserved for absolute devotion. But each level must feel temporary, revocable, dependent on continued loyalty. The rewards themselves matter less than their visibility. A minor promotion given publicly teaches more than a major favor granted privately. The masses must see loyalty rewarded. They must witness the benefits of devotion. They must understand that the path to prosperity lies through unwavering support of your aims, but never reward too completely or too permanently. The most loyal servant must still feel the need to prove themselves. The most dedicated follower must still fear falling from grace. Keep them hungry, keep them striving, keep them dependent on your continued favor. This brings us to the other side of the equation, the handling of dissent. Here, the opposite principle applies. Punishment must be decisive but quiet, devastating but deniable. The fate of dissenters must be known, but never so clearly as to create martyrs. Learn the art of subtle destruction. The dissenter need not be physically removed. They can be marginalized, discredited, isolated. Their voice need not be silenced. It can be drowned out, dismissed, devalued. Their influence need not be broken. It can be quietly dissolved through 1,000 small cuts. The digital age has provided new tools for this ancient art. Careers can be destroyed without violence. Reputations can be ruined without confrontation. Voices can be silenced without leaving a trace. Master these modern methods of destroying opposition without creating visible victims. But remember, the goal is not to eliminate all dissent. Some controlled opposition serves your purpose. It creates the illusion of freedom. It identifies potential threats. It allows you to demonstrate your power through selective mercy. The art lies in knowing which dissent to tolerate and which to crush. Watch how skilled operators manage this. Balance. They allow enough criticism to maintain credibility. They permit enough opposition to appear magnanimous. But they ensure every tolerated critic knows exactly where the line lies and what happens when it is crossed. Your response to disloyalty must be proportional yet unpredictable. Sometimes ignore minor betrayals to demonstrate confidence. Sometimes crush them utterly to demonstrate resolve. Let no one feel certain whether their transgression will be overlooked or prove fatal. Uncertainty breeds caution. This uncertainty must extend even to your most loyal followers. They must never know whether today's minor deviation will be forgiven or punished. This keeps them vigilant, careful, constantly working to prove their loyalty. The most dedicated servant should feel one misstep away from disgrace. But when you do strike at disloyalty, ensure your target is isolated first. Strip them of allies before moving against them. Ensure their fall serves as a lesson without creating sympathy. The masses must fear the consequences of disloyalty without identifying with its victims. Learn to use public examples sparingly but effectively. Most enforcement should be quiet, but occasional public punishments remind all of the cost of betrayal. These demonstrations must seem reluctant, necessary, even merciful in their relative restraint. You are not taking revenge. You are maintaining order. The ultimate achievement is to make your followers enforce loyalty themselves. When they police each other's devotion, when they compete to demonstrate their faithfulness, when they eagerly expose any hint of disloyalty in their ranks, then you have created a truly sustainable system of control. For in the end, the most effective system of reward and punishment is one that runs itself, where loyalty is seen as the only path to success, where dissent is viewed as self-destructive folly, where your role is not to constantly enforce, but merely to maintain the conditions that make enforcement unnecessary. This is the true mastery of the loyalty-dissent dynamic. Not to constantly reward and punish, but to create a system where reward and punishment happen naturally, inevitably, as the clear consequences of choice. For power maintained through force alone is temporary, but power maintained through the willing participation of its subjects becomes permanent. Independent thought is the enemy of absolute control. The questioning mind threatens power more than any army, for it plants the seeds of doubt that grow into the forests of resistance. Your task is not merely to control actions, but to shape the very landscape of thought. Silence those who think deeply. Reward those who follow blindly. Understand this essential truth. Thinkers are dangerous, not because they oppose you, but because they teach others to question. A single independent mind can infect hundreds with the disease of doubt. A solitary critical voice can wake others from the slumber of acceptance. This cannot be permitted. But crude censorship is the tool of amateurs. The art lies in making thinking itself appear suspect. Questions must be seen as signs of weakness. Doubt must be viewed as proof of disloyalty. Critical analysis must be dismissed as negativity. Transform the very act of independent thought into something shameful. Watch how skilled practitioners execute this strategy. They don't ban books. They make reading appear elitist. They don't forbid questions. They make questioning seem unpatriotic. They don't outlaw thought. They make thinking appear dangerous. The goal is not to prevent thinking, but to make others prevent it for you. The digital age has given us new tools for this ancient art. Social media rewards quick reaction over careful reflection. Algorithms promote emotional engagement over intellectual depth. The constant stream of content drowns serious thought in a sea of superficiality. Use these tools, amplify their effects, learn to identify and isolate the thinkers in your midst. They reveal themselves through their questions, their analysis, their refusal to accept simple answers. Mark them not as enemies to be destroyed, but as problems to be managed. Let them serve as examples of what happens to those who think too deeply. But mere suppression is not enough. You must elevate and celebrate the followers, reward those who accept without question, promote those who repeat rather than analyze, give platform and power to those who demonstrate unwavering, unthinking loyalty. Make compliance the path to success. The ideal follower is one who not only accepts but enforces, who not only believes but demands belief from others, who not only avoids thinking but actively distrusts it. These are your most valuable assets. These are the antibodies that will attack the virus of independent thought. Master the language of anti-intellectualism. Common sense is better than book learning. Trust your heart, not your mind. Some things shouldn't be questioned. Make thinking itself seem not just dangerous, but unnecessary. Position loyalty and obedience as superior forms of wisdom. Your educational systems must reflect this priority. Reward memorization over analysis. Celebrate acceptance over questioning. Promote those who master the approved narrative, not those who challenge it. The goal is not to prevent learning, but to ensure that what is learned serves your purpose. Create an environment where complexity becomes suspect, where nuance is seen as weakness, where certainty is valued over understanding. The masses must learn to fear the uncertainty that comes with true thinking, to crave the comfort that comes with simple acceptance. But remember, some controlled intellectual activity must be permitted. It provides the illusion of freedom. It allows you to identify potential threats. It helps maintain the facade of progress. The art lies in keeping this activity within safe boundaries, focused on approved topics, reaching approved conclusions. Watch how modern power structures achieve this. They don't ban research. They control funding. They don't censor thought. They shape its direction. They don't forbid questions. They determine which questions can be asked. This is how you guide intellectual activity without appearing to control it. The ultimate achievement is to make the masses proud of their ignorance, to have them celebrate their lack of critical thinking as a form of strength, to have them defend their intellectual limitations as virtues. When they begin to attack independent thought without your prompting, you have succeeded. For in the end, the most effective censorship is self-censorship. The most powerful suppression of thought is that which comes from within. When the masses police their own minds, when they pride themselves on their unquestioning acceptance, when they actively resist independent thinking, then your control is complete. This is the true mastery of intellectual control, not to fight against thinking, but to make thinking itself unwanted, not to silence questions, but to remove the desire to question, not to enforce ignorance, but to make ignorance feel like wisdom. Humans are not creatures of pure reason, but of symbol and ritual. They respond not just to what is said, but to what is shown, not just to what is done, but to how it is done. Master the use of symbols and rituals, and you will control not just actions, but hearts, not just minds, but souls. Understand this fundamental truth. A symbol holds more power than 1,000 arguments. A ritual carries more weight than 100 commands. The masses may resist direct control, but they willingly submit to the authority of symbolic power. This is your path to deeper influence. First, master the creation and manipulation of symbols. Your authority must be represented in visual form, logos, emblems, insignias that command instant recognition and respect. These symbols must be simple, enough to be immediately grasped, yet complex enough to carry deeper meaning. They must feel both ancient and timeless. Watch how skilled practitioners deploy this art. Corporate brands that inspire religious devotion. Political symbols that command fanatical loyalty. Social movements that rally millions behind a simple image. All understand that humans will fight more fiercely for a symbol than for any rational cause, but mere symbols are not enough. You must create rituals that give these symbols power. regular ceremonies that reinforce their meaning, repeated actions that turn observation into participation, structured experiences that transform casual followers into devoted believers. The ritual makes the symbol live. Learn the architecture of effective rituals. They must feel both important and inevitable, both meaningful and natural. They must seem to have existed forever, even when newly created. They must appear to connect participants to something larger than themselves, something eternal and unchanging. The digital age has not diminished this power. It has amplified it. Virtual rituals can reach millions simultaneously. Online symbols can spread globally in moments. Social media has created new forms of symbolic interaction, new types of digital ceremony. Master these modern tools of ancient power. Your rituals must serve multiple purposes. They must unite your followers in common action. They must separate insiders from outsiders. They must create memorable experiences that bind participants to your cause. Most importantly, they must make submission feel like participation. Watch how this operates in practice. Company meetings that feel like religious gatherings, political rallies that mirror ancient ceremonies, social media trends that create ritualized behavior. All understand that humans crave the structure and meaning that ritual provides. Give them this, and they will give you their loyalty. But remember, your symbols and rituals must seem organic, not manufactured. They must appear to arise naturally from shared values and experiences. They must feel discovered rather than created. The hand that shapes them must remain invisible, while their power feels inevitable. Master the use of repetition. Regular exposure to symbols builds recognition. Regular participation in rituals builds commitment. Regular performance of ceremonial acts builds loyalty. Each repetition deepens the groove in the mind, strengthens the bonds of belonging, reinforces the power of your authority. Create layers of symbolic meaning, surface meanings for the masses, deeper significance for the initiated. Let each level of understanding feel like an achievement, each new interpretation like a revelation. The symbol that means one thing to the public can carry hidden messages for your inner circle. Your rituals must balance precision with flexibility. The core elements must remain unchanged, providing comfort through familiarity. But there must be room for local variation, for personal interpretation, for the illusion of spontaneity within strict bounds. This makes the ritual feel both universal and personal. The ultimate achievement is to make your symbols and rituals self-perpetuating. When followers eagerly teach them to others, when participation becomes tradition, when performance becomes instinct, then your authority is no longer maintained by force, but anchored in culture itself. For this is the true power of symbols and rituals. They transform external control into internal conviction. They convert compliance into commitment. They change obligation into desire. Through them, your authority becomes not just accepted, but celebrated. Not just tolerated, but treasured. Master this art, and you will never need to demand obedience. Your symbols will command it. Your rituals will ensure it. Your authority will be written not just in laws or rules, but in the very patterns of thought and behavior that shape human life. True power moves like shadow, unseen, yet shaping everything it touches. The masses will resist obvious control, but they will embrace invisible influence. The greatest authority is that which is felt but never seen. Master this art of hidden power, and you will control not just actions, but the very context in which actions occur. Understand this essential principle. Direct power invites resistance. Visible authority creates opposition, but influence that cannot be seen cannot be resisted. Control that cannot be identified cannot be fought. Your hand must move the pieces while remaining invisible to those who are moved. First, master the art of proxies. Every action must come through intermediaries. Every decision must seem to originate from others. Every change must appear to arise naturally from circumstances you have quietly arranged. Your influence must flow through channels that cannot be traced back to you. Watch how skilled practitioners implement this strategy. They create layers of deniability. They build networks of indirect control. They establish chains of influence where each link sees only its immediate connections. No single player can trace the full path back to its source. This is your model. Learn to use multiple fronts for single purposes. Let different groups advocate for your aims, each unaware of the other's role. Let various voices speak your message, each believing they speak independently. Let separate actions serve your goal, each appearing unconnected to the rest. The digital age has made this art both easier and more essential. Online influence can be truly untraceable. Social media. Movements can appear spontaneous while being carefully orchestrated. Digital campaigns can seem grassroots while being centrally directed. Master these tools of invisible control. Create the illusion of organic change. Your desired outcomes must seem to arise naturally from public sentiment, market forces, or social evolution. The changes you engineer must appear inevitable rather than orchestrated. The future you shape must feel like it emerged rather than was imposed. But remember, some visible power serves as useful camouflage. Let obvious influences draw attention while real control operates unseen. Let public authority absorb scrutiny, while hidden authority exercises true power. The puppet master is best hidden when the puppets are clearly visible. Study how modern power structures achieve this balance. Public figures, who appear to lead while hidden figures direct. Official channels that seem to decide while unofficial networks determine. Visible institutions that attract attention while invisible influences shape outcomes. Master the art of suggested direction. Plant ideas that others will champion. Create conditions that others will exploit. Establish frameworks within which others will naturally serve your ends. The best control is that which makes others believe they are acting of their own accord. Your true power must operate through multiple layers. Each layer must seem independent, yet all must serve your purpose. Each level must appear autonomous, yet all must follow your design. Like a master puppeteer, you must control complex movements through nearly invisible strings. Learn to use apparent chaos as cover for careful control. In confusion, your hidden hand moves freely. In disorder, your quiet influence goes unnoticed. In turbulence, your careful manipulations are masked by the general tumult. Chaos is not your enemy, it is your camouflage. Build systems that serve your ends automatically. Structures that naturally create your desired outcomes. Processes that inevitably lead to your goals. The highest form of hidden power is that which continues to operate without requiring your direct intervention. The language of hidden power must be subtle. Suggestions rather than commands. Questions that lead to inevitable conclusions. Observations that prompt desired reactions. Your words must plant seeds that others will water, tend, and ultimately harvest according to your design. Create the illusion of distributed power while maintaining centralized control. Let authority appear to reside in many hands while truly resting in yours alone. Let decisions seem to come from various sources while actually flowing from a single well. The appearance of democracy can mask the reality of autocracy. Watch how skilled operators maintain this illusion. They encourage debate within acceptable bounds. They allow choice between pre-selected options. They permit resistance that cannot affect core interests. The freedom they grant is real, but carefully contained. Your greatest protection is the complexity of your control system. When influence flows through multiple channels, when power moves through various intermediaries, when authority operates through diverse proxies, then no single exposure can reveal the full extent of your control. This is the ultimate art of hidden power, not to eliminate resistance, but to make it impossible. not to forbid opposition, but to make it irrelevant, not to silence criticism, but to ensure it never finds its true target, for power that cannot be seen cannot be challenged, and control that cannot be traced cannot be broken. Master this art of invisible authority, and you will never need to fear exposure or resistance. For how can they fight what they cannot see? How can they resist what they cannot identify? How can they challenge power that seems to emanate from everywhere and nowhere? This is the true face of absolute control, the hand that moves all pieces while remaining forever unseen. A population that is both distracted and dependent can never mount effective resistance. This is the foundation of modern control, not through force, but through the gentle chains of entertainment and reliance. Master this dual strategy, and you will never need to fear the uprising of those you rule. Understand this essential truth. The mind that is constantly entertained cannot form deep thoughts. The person who depends on your system cannot effectively challenge it. Together, these forces create the perfect conditions for lasting control. A population too distracted to think deeply and too dependent to act boldly. First, master the art of continuous distraction. The modern world offers unprecedented tools for this purpose. Social media feeds that never end, entertainment streams that never cease, news cycles that never pause. Each moment of potential reflection must be filled with noise, movement, sensation. But mere entertainment is not enough. The distractions you provide must feel important. They must seem meaningful. They must give the illusion of engagement while preventing real participation. Let them debate celebrities rather than policies. Let them argue about entertainment rather than economics. Let them focus on spectacle rather than substance. Watch how skilled practitioners implement this strategy. They don't ban information. They drown it in irrelevance. They don't forbid thought. They fill every moment with noise. They don't prohibit discussion. They ensure it focuses on trivialities. The art lies not in preventing access to truth, but in making truth irrelevant. The digital age has perfected this art. Algorithms that serve endless content, notifications that demand constant attention, platforms that fragment focus into smaller and smaller pieces. Use these tools. Let no moment remain unfilled. Let no mind find space for quiet reflection. But distraction alone is not enough. You must also create and maintain dependency. Your system must become not just useful, but essential. Not just helpful, but necessary. The masses must feel that their survival, their prosperity, their very identity depends on the structures you control. Study how modern systems achieve this. Financial networks that make independence impossible, social platforms that make connection dependent on participation, entertainment systems that create addictive patterns of consumption. Each strand weaves into a web of dependency that few can escape. Learn to replace natural communities with artificial ones, local connections with digital networks, personal relationships with mediated interactions. Each replacement must seem to offer more while actually delivering less, creating a void that only your system can fill. Your tools of dependency must appear to offer freedom while creating constraint. Social media that promises connection while fostering isolation. Entertainment that offers escape while building addiction. Financial systems that promise opportunity while ensuring reliance. The chains must feel like choices. Create layers of dependency. Physical needs met only through your systems. Social connections maintained only through your platforms. Information accessed only through your channels. Entertainment available only through your networks. Each layer reinforces the others, creating a web from which escape becomes unthinkable. Master the language of empowerment while fostering dependency. Connectivity that creates isolation. Convenience that atrophies capability. Access that ensures reliance. Let them believe they are gaining power while their true independence slowly fades. The ideal state is one where your systems are no longer seen as options, but as necessities. where life outside your structures becomes not just difficult, but unimaginable, where dependency is so complete that it no longer feels like dependency at all. But remember, the bonds must remain pleasant. The chains must feel like comforts. The limitations must appear as conveniences. Your control must feel like support. Your dominance must seem like protection. Your system must be seen not as a prison, but as a sanctuary. Watch how effective systems maintain this illusion. They offer enough freedom to prevent rebellion, enough comfort to prevent resistance, enough entertainment to prevent thought. The art lies not in complete restriction, but in making restriction feel like freedom. Your greatest achievement will be when the masses defend their own dependency, when they fight to maintain their distractions, when they actively resist attempts to break their chains, when they cannot imagine life outside the system you have created. For this is the ultimate power of distraction and dependency. Not to force submission, but to make submission feel like choice. Not to impose limitations, but to make limitations feel like protection. Not to enforce control, but to make control feel like freedom. Human behavior, in all its apparent complexity, follows predictable patterns. The masses react to specific triggers with mechanical reliability. Master the art of predicting these reactions, and you can orchestrate them at will. Learn to read. These patterns and human behavior becomes not just predictable, but programmable. Understand this fundamental truth. People believe they act from reason, but they react from emotion. They think they make choices, but they follow patterns. They imagine they decide, but they respond. This gap between human self-perception and reality is your leverage point for control. First, master the science of emotional triggers. Each basic human emotion, fear, anger, pride, shame, desire, has its own predictable activation pattern. Like keys on an instrument, these emotions can be played in sequence to create the symphony of reaction you desire. Learn their notes, master their rhythms. Watch how skilled practitioners implement this art. They don't argue, they activate. They don't persuade, but they provoke. They don't fight resistance, they trigger responses that make resistance collapse from within. The masses never realize their reactions were orchestrated long before they felt them. Learn to recognize the signs that precede predictable responses, the subtle shifts in group sentiment that signal coming changes, the small ripples that precede massive waves of reaction. Like a master chess player, you must see moves before they happen, reactions before they manifest. The digital age has made this art both easier and more precise. Social media provides real-time laboratories of human behavior. Online movements show reaction patterns in their purest form. Digital crowds demonstrate trigger-response mechanics with perfect clarity. Study these patterns. Map these responses. Master the sequence of emotional dominoes. One reaction triggers another, in predictable chains of cause and effect. Anger leads to fear, leads to desire for protection. Pride leads to overreach, leads to vulnerability. Each sequence can be initiated with the right trigger. But crude provocation is for amateurs. The art lies in subtle inception. Plant the seeds that grow into predictable reactions. Create the conditions that make certain responses inevitable. Like a master farmer, you must prepare the ground long before you expect a harvest. Study how modern manipulators achieve this. They don't push against beliefs, they reshape the context in which beliefs exist. They don't fight opinions, they alter the foundations upon which opinions rest. They don't change minds, they change the environment in which minds operate. Your triggers must seem natural, inevitable, unplanned. The reactions you orchestrate must feel organic, spontaneous, genuine. The masses must never suspect that their strongest emotions, their deepest reactions, were designed and initiated by an unseen hand. Learn to use pacing and timing. Different triggers require different preparation. Different reactions need different incubation periods. Some responses are immediate, others take time to build. Like a conductor, you must know when each instrument should enter the symphony of reaction, create cascading reaction chains. Each response should trigger the next in a sequence that serves your ends. Each emotional wave should build upon the previous one. Each public movement should create the conditions for the next. The art lies not in creating single reactions, but in orchestrating campaigns. Master the use of controlled opposition. Let resistance arise in predictable ways that you can trigger and direct. Let criticism emerge in forms you can anticipate and channel. The reaction you can predict is the reaction you can control. But remember, not all reactions should be triggered. Some patterns should be observed but not activated. Some responses should be understood but left dormant. The art lies not just in knowing how to trigger reactions, but in knowing which reactions best serve your purpose. Your greatest power lies in making reactions feel like choices. The masses must believe they act from conviction when they react from conditioning. They must feel they decide when they merely respond. They must believe they think when they simply follow the path you have prepared. Watch how masterful practitioners maintain this illusion. They create the context that makes reactions inevitable while celebrating the apparent freedom of choice. They design the maze while praising the navigator. They build the track while applauding the runner. For this is the ultimate art of triggering reactions. Not to force behavior, but to make desired behavior automatic. Not to compel responses, but to make them inevitable. Not to push against human nature, but to harness its predictable patterns in service of your goals. Master this understanding, and the masses become your instrument. For when you can predict reactions, you can orchestrate them. When you can orchestrate them, you can control them. When you can control them, you hold the true reins of power. Now we come to the final and most crucial truth. Power unused is power lost. In the realm of influence and control, there is no neutral ground, no safe harbor, no middle path. You either exercise power or you will be subject to it. You either control or you will be controlled. You either master these arts or you will fall victim to those who have. Understand this with perfect clarity. The principles I have shared with you are not merely techniques, they are the fundamental laws of power. They are being used right now, in this moment, by those who seek to shape your world. The only choice you have is whether to be the wielder of these tools or to be shaped by those who wield them against you. Look around you with newly opened eyes. See how these principles operate in every sphere of modern life. Watch how corporations manipulate desires, how politicians shape beliefs, how media controls narratives, how technology directs behavior. There is no escape from these dynamics. There is only mastery or submission. The digital age has not changed these ancient rules. It has intensified them. Social media is not just a platform. It is a battlefield of influence. The internet is not just a network. It is an arena of control. Big data is not just information. It is power waiting to be wielded. Those who understand this thrive. Those who don't become digital serfs, their every click and view serving someone else's power. But mere understanding is not enough. Knowledge without action is worse than ignorance. It is a special form of torture. To see the machinery of control at work, but lack the will to grasp its levers, to recognize manipulation but remain its victim, to understand power but refuse to exercise it. I have shown you how the masses can be divided, distracted, directed, how loyalty can be rewarded and dissent crushed, how enemies can be manufactured and allies controlled, how thoughts can be shaped and reactions triggered, how authority can be built and opposition silenced. These are not theoretical concepts. They are weapons in a war for control that never ends. The moral squeamish will hesitate here. They will speak of ethics, of fairness, of justice. But understand this, morality is a luxury of the powerful. Ethics are tools used to control those who refuse to exercise power themselves. The truly ethical choice is to take power before someone worse does. The truly moral action is to wield influence before it is wielded against you. Watch how power operates in practice. Those who refuse to exercise it are not praised for their restraint, they are punished for their weakness. Those who hesitate to use influence do not receive mercy, they receive subjugation. Those who reject manipulation do not earn respect, they earn exploitation. The dynamics of power are like gravity. They operate whether you believe in them or not. Your choice is not whether to participate in this game, you are already in it. Your choice is whether to play or to be played, whether to be the chess master or the pawn, whether to be the programmer or the program. In the modern world, power moves with increasing speed and complexity. Markets shift in microseconds. Narratives change in moments. Influence flows through digital networks at the speed of light. Those who wait to act will find the moment of action has passed. Those who hesitate to use power will find power using them. Remember everything I have taught you. How to control narratives while remaining unseen. How to shape thoughts while appearing uninvolved. How to direct behavior while seeming to offer choice. How to build authority while hiding its exercise. These are not optional skills. They are survival tools in a world where influence is everything. The masses, in their comfortable ignorance, believe they can opt out of these power dynamics. They think they can remain neutral, unaligned, independent. This is the ultimate self-deception. There is no opting out. There is no neutrality. There is no independence. There is only power exercised or power endured. You who have read these words now face a choice. Will you use these tools, or will you be used by them? Will you exercise power, or will you submit to it? Will you control narratives, or will you be controlled by them? Will you shape reality, or will you be shaped by it? There is no middle ground. There is no third option. The window for action is not infinite. Power abhors a vacuum. The opportunities you hesitate to seize will be taken by others. The influence you refuse to exercise will be used against you. The control you decline to implement will be implemented upon you. Time favors the bold, punishes the hesitant. This is your final warning. Power is not a choice. It is not a luxury. It is not an option. It is a necessity in a world where influence flows constantly, where control is exercised continuously, where manipulation occurs ceaselessly. You cannot choose whether to engage with power. You can only choose which side of it you will be on. So I say to you now, with all the weight of centuries of power dynamics behind my words, use these tools, master these arts, exercise this power. Not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Not because it is comfortable, but because the alternative is subjugation. Not because it is safe, but because refusing to act is the greatest danger of all. For in the end, there are only two types of people, those who understand and exercise power, and those who deny its reality while serving its purposes. Those who control and those who are controlled. Those who shape reality and those who are shaped by it. The choice, now and always, is yours. But remember, this choice exists only in this moment. Power, once understood, cannot be ignored. These arts, once learned, cannot be unlearned. This knowledge, once gained, demands action. You must decide now. Will you be the master or will you be mastered? Subscribe to this channel. Master these arts. Take control of your destiny. For in a world of power, there is no neutral ground. There is only mastery or submission. Choose wisely.